Hello, my name is Christina Brewer, and I am currently at the very tail end of my 200-hour yoga teacher training with Nirguna Studio in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And as a final requirement to complete my program, I've been given the task of giving a Dharma Talk. Having never really done one, I hope that my due diligence doesn't disappoint you. So, as recommended by my teacher, I've decided to focus on the third yama. And if you are familiar with Patanjali's 8-limb philosophy, the topic I'll be discussing today is Asteya. If you are a novice with yoga language specifics, a yama is considered to be a duty which is recommended by yogic philosophy and teaching as part of an 8-limb path of yoga. In the Yoga Sutra, Patanjali outlines 5 yamas in his first limb and 5 niyamas in the second limb of his 8-path philosophy known as Ashtanga. So the yamas are considered to be a set of restraints which are to be practiced by an individual in order to lead an ethical life. The niyamas are described more as a set of necessary observances. So the third yama, Asteya, is explained to be the practice and restraint of non-stealing. And Asteya means to not take anything which has not been freely and willingly given. So this idea also extends to being complicit in things such as theft, exploitation, and or oppression. Asteya is mentioned throughout many Indian texts, including the Yoga Sutra and the Mahabharata. If you're familiar with yoga philosophy, then you'll also recall that the Mahabharata is home to the infamous epic, the Bhagavad Gita. One source that I discovered mentions that Gandhi discussed the importance of practicing Asteya. And Gandhi considered it as one of his 11 vows, in which he expanded beyond the physical act of stealing. And what Gandhi said was that mankind's greed and craving for artificial needs is also stealing. Another yoga philosopher, Swami Shivananda, also focused on the idea that Asteya stems from desire or want, desire or want is also the cause for stealing. So where does this need to steal arise within us? Not only in the physical taking of something from someone, but where do these desires and wants root and take over so much that we must be consistently mindful in our practice of Asteya? Well, in part of my yoga teacher training, we focused on a section known as the 6 steps to Maitreya. So the first step is that we're born with these seeds. These seeds are notions of something. So they're these little nuggets or tokens of something. And the example that my teacher used, she used the dark chocolate peanut butter cups as one of these little tiny nuggets as her example. And so with any seeds, these notion seeds that are within us, they ripen. And as they ripen, as this notion of something ripens, I assign good qualities to this thing. So this thing, the example that she used was this dark chocolate peanut butter cup. But it doesn't necessarily, this notion, these things don't necessarily have to be tangible. You can steal things, you can steal ideas, you can steal peace, you can steal culture. Cultural appropriation is the stealing of another culture. And you can also steal these things, time, peace, you can steal them from yourselves. So I've assigned these good qualities to this thing, and I recognize that I really like that thing, and I really, really, really like it. So now I possess this want and this desire for this thing. And you see, I've been feeling pretty lousy. And so I just know that acquiring this thing is going to be the very thing that's going to make me feel great, fantastic, whole. I want this wholeness. I need this thing to feel complete, to feel whole, to feel good. So selfishly, I want it for myself. And even though it doesn't belong to me, I want it. I want it, I want it, I want it for my own personal gain. So step 5 in the 6 steps of Maitreya is that now that I've acknowledged this ignorant desire for this thing that I want, I take action. I take it. I take this thing, and now it is mine. It is mine, mine, mine. And even though it didn't belong to me, I felt so compelled that I needed it in order to make me feel whole that I took it, and now it's mine. So the 6th step of Maitreya addresses this, that even now that I have this thing, that I took this thing that does not belong to me, and that having this thing now has satiated that want and desire, I believe that I've found ease in this thing that I've taken for myself. And for the time being, I'm going to revel in this ease, this wholeness. But slowly, I'm going to start to feel lousy again. And as things go, I'm going to move on to focusing on my ignorant desire for that next thing that's outside of me that I need to acquire in order to feel whole and complete again. And thus the circle of suffering continues. So as I pursued this information about more about Asteya, a source I discovered suggested that these wants and desires arise from this lack of faith that we have within ourselves to be able to create what we need by ourselves. So the moment we feel a sense of lack in life, this desire, this want, this greed arises within us, and we begin to look for something to feel that empty sensation, and often feel as though everyone else has the thing that we want. Insecurity, wanting, and feeling incomplete. Well, essentially what it boils down to is feeling that there is something missing. Now, the word yoga means to yoke, union, join, connect. And by joining and creating that union, we become whole. So by practicing each aspect of yoga on and off the mat, we can move further towards feeling as though we already have enough and that we are already enough within ourselves. So what does Asteya look like on the yoga mat? Well, do you push yourself beyond boundaries within your practice because you're afraid of not being good enough? I think we all have a tendency to do that. You know, there's usually this little part of us within us, and when we begin our practice, with our best intentions, we are going through our asana in our yoga class, and then about halfway through the class, we see ourselves in the mirror, and we're tempted towards practicing for the way a posture should look, and instead of how it should feel. And I've never considered the notion that I would be stealing from myself if I push myself a little too far to the edge in order to attain that perfect posture. See, I've never considered the notion that I could be robbing myself of something in doing so. And what I realize is that in pushing myself too far, I'm robbing myself of a sustainable, natural practice. I'm also robbing myself of being present within a posture and being present with myself for exactly the way things are in that moment. You know, if we allow ourselves to be open and accepting to exactly how our practice is in that moment on the mat, We never need to feel as though we're losing out if some asanas are just a little out of reach. at that moment. It's never the posture that we're able to do that defines our practice, but rather the amount of awareness we bring to them. How often do you rob yourself of experiencing life as it is? So in each moment, we have the opportunity to experience a wide variety of emotions and sensations. And yet, we tend to cling to only those feelings in which are pleasant and enjoyable. So this aspect of clinging a little too tightly to pleasurable experiences is known as raja. And although the experience itself may be one of joy and happiness, the action trying to hold on to it out of desire ultimately creates more suffering, or dukkha. Continually running around in circles after experiences which only bring us pleasure keeps us locked in this cycle of wanting and desiring, which, if we think about, never really ends. Even when we feel content, there's that small part of us that worries about what might happen if we lose this feeling, a person, a possession, or even an experience. So by attempting to feel only the good, we ignore the other half of life completely. However, by exploring those dark places that we fear the most, we make those lighter experiences shine even brighter. And then we're made whole by allowing ourselves to experience every emotion that life has to offer. So there doesn't have to be a good and a bad in every situation. There simply can just things can be just is. And if we allow ourselves to step into those parts that we fear, we give ourselves the opportunity to fully experience life in that very moment, and we practice Asteya. Thank you.